All right. Today is the day I finally get to ask. I'm going to ask my sidekick here, Barry. Barry, get on the mic real quick. Okay, Barry. Barry, what am I going to need? Well, you know the guest today is Glenn the Geek, first of all. Okay, fine. So, Barry, what am I going to need to emulate the greatness of Glenn the Geek?
You're going to need a couple of horses or a couple of mules.
Oh, yes. I finally, that sound clip applies. Glenn the Geek.
And I can help you with that. I could send him on over.
Wow. Glenn the Geek, everybody. That's right. Let's see if he can grunt. Ugh! Ow! I think I pulled something again.
How many do you want? I'll ship them over.
Wow. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Podcast Engineering Show. Thank you for arriving here. Oh, I hear my phone across the house is ringing, but I'm not going to obviously answer that now. I'm Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for big companies and small companies, and every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We really talk shop about, podcast production. I have guests who are podcast producers, engineers. I have a background in audio engineering in the music business, and ever since I entered podcasting, though, I realized that I've been in the podcasting field for about, 7-8 years now. And when I came into podcasting, I realized that most people who podcast don't know a lot about audio production. They know a little bit, but they make a lot of mistakes. So that's why this show is here. If you implement the best of what you learn here, your podcast will sound a lot better and you'll spend less time producing them. And of course, Barry is here with me. Barry, thank you for telling me about the horses and the mules, because Glenn the Geek is here. Are you psyched?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Glenn, you're so confused. You're like, who is he talking to? Barry
Actually,
is...
I know who Barry is. I listen to the show.
Yeah. All right. So Glenn the Geek is here. You all probably know him. You should know him. He's on his way to superstar celebrity status. Not just in podcasting. Hopefully you could be in some movies soon, Glenn. That'd be cool.
Yeah. In my own mind, maybe. But
You're the founder of the Horse Radio Network, which you started in July of 2008, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And you are killing it like no other. That's going to be my first question. Let me finish. You're host of Horses in the Morning. That's your big morning show, right?
That's our live daily show, yes.
Live daily show. You're also the co-founder of the Florida Podcast Network, and you're the host of an awesome show called Finding Florida, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's a travel adventure show.
Yeah, and you go on location, and we're going to talk about location recording today.
Yeah, that provided a whole new set of challenges.
Yes. Oh, man, on location is no joke. So let's just real quick frame for everybody the Horse Radio Network. It started out as you with an idea, and today, what is it consist of?
We have about 20 shows. We just passed, with the Horse Radio Network, about 7,800 episodes over the 10 years.
Oh, I hit the wrong button. I wanted the crowd cheers. Glenn, keep going. Keep talking.
So with the other shows, with the Florida Podcast Network, which we started with Jimmy Lagagna about 2 years ago, we're now over 8,000 episodes with everything. So I don't know that too many independent networks that can say that.
8,000 episodes. Seriously, let's just pause and contemplate that. It's wow.
We figured it out last year when we had an anniversary, and if you listen to all of our episodes in a row with no breaks, 24 hours a day, it would take you almost a year.
Wow, that's just amazing. Barry, do you think you could do that?
Oh, forget it.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
I'm telling you. So this is. I mean. And I met you at Podfest, and you're at Podfest every year in Florida. And by the way, we're recording this very early, so Podfest would have already happened. Just so I'm getting ahead in my recording, which is that causes its own problem. Well, thanks, but that causes its own problem. Like I can't talk about what's current today.
Podfest was fantastic this year, wasn't it, Chris?
Wow. Yeah. So I met you at Podfest, and you're a big part of that conference as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not totally officially, but
I do the opening keynote every year, and my official job is to greet everybody that comes in and say hi. That's my official job.
Right. To be, you're like the mayor of Florida, actually.
Yeah, I'm like the mayor of Podfest. That's a good way to put it, actually.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things. The first thing, you live stream. So your live show every morning is obviously live streamed. Now, that's Horses in the Morning.
Yeah.
Do you live stream audio or audio only or audio and video?
Audio only, because my co-host would never do it. She's in her pajamas out there on the West Coast doing it really early, so she would never do it. And we don't see a need for it. Most of our people listen while they're cleaning stalls or out in the barn or riding their horse or driving to the barn, so they're not going to watch a video anyway.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we do it that way.
And what platform do you stream the audio on?
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because we started out 9 years ago with that show. We're over 2,200 episodes on that show. We've never missed. I mean, we've been religious for all that period of time because we have sponsors. But we started out with Blog Talk, and then a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, we switched, and we do our own system now. So to make that show work, we have 5 computers. And
Cool.
So I have 3 at my desk to describe how this works, all run through a mixer with 2 mix minuses. And what happens is I call the co-host on Skype. So my co-host comes through Skype, run through the mixer. That Skype computer only does Skype and a recording. I have one computer dedicated to sound because we run it as a live radio show. It really does sound like a radio show. So I have one computer that's dedicated to sound, and I also have Call-in Studio open on that computer because we use Call-in Studio for our guests and also to take calls. So Call-in Studio, if you don't know, is used by radio stations. It is a beautiful program. It works really well. And I connect my sound to Call-in Studio, which is basically an online program. I connect through Skype. So my co-host and Call-in Studio are both connected through Skype. We can handle up to 500 calls at a time on Call-in Studio. It's amazing what Call-in Studio does.
Wow.
And then I have another computer that takes the feed out of the mixer, the final feed, the master feed, and that sends out through Mixler. So we use Mixler for our live feed, and that computer also does a backup recording. So we have 2 recordings. It's going out live through Mixler, and we use Call-in Studio. And then I have a producer. We really run this like a radio show. The producer will handle getting the guests set up off air, and through Call-in Studio, we'll handle any calls that are coming in and get them set up for us. So the producer's at another computer in another room or away from here. We have some that are away from where I am.
Right. And
they handle all of that. So that's all done in the background. And then the hosts and the producer, we all communicate on Skype chat. So it's a fairly complicated system, and Call-in Studio costs money. Mixler obviously costs money. We figured that this show costs us around $200 a month to do live, and we wouldn't have to do it live. We have very few live listeners. We do it live because it has a feel and it puts pressure on us.
I was just going to say, like, this, just doing it at the same time every day and having that pressure or responsibility of doing it live, that just keeps you right on track, right?
Well, it has a feel. It has a feel. And, we do record it sometimes for when there's circumstances that we can't do it live. And first of all, it takes us twice as long to do it recorded than it does live. Because live, we do it, it's being recorded. When it's done recording, by then the producer has built the show notes page on the website. We upload it through Auphonic. She puts it out. So within a half an hour of the show being done, it's out. And it's an 1.5 hour show. If we have to edit that, it takes hours. So it's much easier and much faster for us to get it out doing it live.
Right. So the final podcast is out within 30 minutes.
Yep. And it's 90 minutes, 5 days a week. And, for those people that say, you go to the conferences and you hear all the time, you can't do a show over 20 minutes, right? You hear that all the time. It's something that the gurus say.
Yeah.
Our most popular show is 90 minutes, 5 days a week.
Exactly. Totally. So, all right. Well, we're going to pick, I want to ask you about your equipment and stuff. But before we get to that, you send out the master live feed through the service called Mixler, Mixlr, which
Correct.
I actually experimented with about 5 years ago, and I liked it back then. And so does that mean that all your live listeners have to have the Mixler app, right?
No, we actually have it. We have our own app, a Horse Radio Network app. About a third of our listeners now come through our Horse Radio Network app. It's been downloaded over 33,000 times. So we estimate about a third of our listeners live or recorded come through our app. So they just hit the live button and they can listen. We have players on our websites. We have players on, there's players on other horse websites that they carry our show. So they listen in a multitude of different places.
Right. So you embed players on web pages and your app. So was it hard to make your own, was it hard to have Mixler stream through your own app?
I don't know. The developer did it, so I have no idea. I just said do it and he got it done. So that's
the answer right there. I love that.
Oh, I know.
Barry, you like that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, he does. So that's cool. Mixler. So yeah, I'm so happy to hear that Mixler allows you to take that stream and stream it somewhere else. Like it's not only on their platform and their app. I love that.
I don't think they did it when you said 5 or 6 years ago,
okay.
But it was 4 or 5 years ago. They did put that option in there.
Okay.
And I like Mixler. It's simple. It does what it's supposed to do. It streams a feed.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
it. That's what it's supposed to do.
I really loved it when I was using it. And then, and I wonder if probably to be able to stream the Mixler to your own app, you probably had to buy the pro level of Mixler.
Yeah, we pay money for it because we use it so much anyway.
Right.
And we put it to the test. We do a 12-hour live holiday marathon. We call it a radiothon on Cyber Monday every year, Christmas time.
Wow.
And we'll have 20 hosts. We have 30 guests all day long, and we get hundreds of callers.
Wow. So
we do that all through Mixler. It's never failed us. The feed is kept up for 12 hours straight. And we just call in studio for that. And we'll have 20 phone lines open. And they'll be full the whole day.
Wow.
And the producer's just constantly getting people set up to talk to us.
So call in studio, that's what you use to take your calls. Is that real easy? Does it have a nice interface on the computer where you see everything?
It's a beautiful interface. You can have call screeners. You have the call host. So the call screener can go into what's called a screening room, can handle any incoming or out. She can call out to call guests or take any of the incoming calls off air. And then you have an online, just on your web browser, you have an interface. I can then from here take the people off of hold. They hear the show while they're on hold. It's just like a radio station.
That's cool. So
now,
do
you pay by the minute for that? So as callers are on, you pay by the minute. It probably costs us $125 a month, but we're using it every day.
Right. Yeah, that's not much at all. Yeah. So you do some of your listeners call literally from the barn or when they're sitting on a horse and stuff?
We love when our guests or our listeners are calling when they're on a horse. If we can hear the clipping clock, that's perfect. That's perfect.
That is so cool. I love that. I was trying to think of how I could do it for my show. It'd be like, ooh, maybe I could take a call while someone's...
You need to get Barry in there live.
You know what? Barry needs to be there. I mean... It's hard to pick sound clips on the fly here.
The guy is lazy. You got to give him.
I'm telling you, Barry. So let me ask Barry a question because Barry has actually visited your horses on your property and seen the horses' stalls. And Barry, when you went to see the Glenn's horses' stalls, what was your thought?
It's a mess.
Okay.
That's true.
Wow. Jeez. Wow. I went pretty far for that little sound clip, but
you are digging.
So, all right, the studio, you actually, before we started recording, you kind of twisted the webcam because we are using Squadcast, but we're not recording the video. So give me a feel for your studio there. I mean, what kind of mics you got? How many people are in the one room there when you're doing it?
I am alone. It's like a spare bedroom in the house.
Okay.
And I have the whole room. I have the setup with my 3 computers that I just described. And I had bought very expensive mixers. And because I have so many mix minuses coming into this thing, believe me, I spent hours on the phone with Dave Jackson trying to get this set up.
Okay.
Because everything had to do a specific purpose for the live show. I ended up going back to a Belkin mixer that is literally 12 years old. And I had the Yamahas. We had I had bought so many mixers and sent them back to Amazon. And we ended up with this simple Belkin mixer because it just did the job. And you know what the new mixers had that the Belkin doesn't have? We had all kinds of hisses and noise and crap. And there were almost too many buttons. It was what it came down to.
Right.
So this one is just basic. It has 2 ins for mics, which I use a splitter so I can do 4, so I can have 3 guests in the studio. And all of my computers run through the mixer. Mics, we don't go fancy on mics. We use the ATR 2100s. Or I started 10 years ago, because I have to buy so many mics for hosts. We have almost 30 hosts. So I bought Behringer Ultra Voice XM 1800s. They come in a 3-pack for $45. And that is what I have looked. I looked right before we got on. I bought 43 of these now. So, because I have to send them out to so many hosts, and I have to have half decent quality, but it doesn't have to be fantastic. You know, they have crappy internet. They're on farms. So, you know, as far as sound goes for our shows, if we get close, we're happy, because we have challenges that other people don't have.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I think I might have heard about these XM 1800s from you at PodFest like 4 or 5 years ago, because then I looked into it. And then when I did my microphone test drive booth a few years ago at Podcast Movement and NAB, I actually got some of the XM 1800s to put in the, like, because I put 10 mics side by side, you know, like the big podcasting and radio mics. And then I had the XM 1800 there. And I got to tell you one thing. That thing doesn't sound bad at all.
For $12 mic.
Yeah, and it's in a super cardioid pattern, so it's a tighter pickup pattern. It rejects more room noise than the ATR 2100. Believe it or not.
Which is why I don't use the 2100s when we're at horse shows, because we could be sitting below a speaker, the announcer speaker, with these mics, with the Behringer mics, and you barely hear the announcer speaker. It's why I use them all the time on the road. Plus, if we break them, we're on the road, we're throwing crap around,
right?
And if we break them, they're $15. I just throw them out and buy a new one. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I really like that mic. And you know what? I just realized something, that I recently did a test between the ATR 2100 and its comparable model from Samsung, the Q2U.
I have those too, the Q2Us. Yeah.
Yep. And the switches on them, like when you switch it on and off, it makes an audible click.
Yes.
But what I realized, and I put this in my daily goodie, because I do a little daily goodie blog post, which, by the way, you could sign up for on podcastengineeringschool.com. Get a little email every day or a summary every week. When you turn those 2 mics on or off, there's an audible click. But what I found out is if you just move that switch from the off position to the on position really slowly, it doesn't make a click. And I do that when I live stream, because I do meditation live streams in the morning. And when I turn on and off the mic, I really I move that on-off switch real slow, and it doesn't make a click sound. And so the reason I brought all that up is because I know the XM 1800s, the Behringers, they have a on-off switch, and I wonder.
You know what? I'm just looking, and as a matter of fact, because I switched some things out and I've been playing around, I'm on one of the Behringer mics right now.
Oh, there you go. So
Here,
wait, switch it on and off.
Okay, let me see if I can get to it through the setup here. Yep, makes a click.
Yeah, a little bit.
I heard it anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, so I really like those mics. I mean, and when you get right up on it, it has a good tone.
I'm
it
right
really
here
does.
right now. Yeah, so I'm on it right now.
Yeah. When anybody gets right up close on it,
radio voice. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Where's Barry's?
I
voice?
wish I had one of those actually.
Yeah. This will be Glenn in 10 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So
Barry, I want to sound like you.
Oh, forget it.
So yeah, that's what we use in the studio here. Now I have switch now when we get new hosts, because I had to order the mics and the stands and all the pieces to send out to new hosts, the cords. Now I'm just buying the Samsung Q2U packages and just shipping them out, because it's so much easier just to order them on Amazon and have it shipped.
Got it.
Than for me to put the pieces together and box it and ship it out. So I'm just doing that now.
So you're ordering those for the hosts of the shows on your network.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because we buy their mics, so we can make sure that you're using a half decent one.
Yeah, no, the Q2U is a really good mic too. It even has like a more it does have a slightly fuller sound, like it has a little more low end, so it's
yes,
just a little more than the ATR 2100. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very subtle.
So that's what we use here in the studio, and we use all PCs. As a matter of fact, I have a couple hosts with Macs, and we have more trouble with the Macs than we do the PCs. I'm sorry, Mac people.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like it's like anything. If you know what you're doing, if you set up for it, and you just keep it simple, and then you're okay. The problems come when people, they try to do funny stuff, or they open, like, the classic is when a guest joins a podcast and like they're on a computer that has like 94 windows open.
Yes.
And Dropbox is syncing and
Yes.
And it's like, dude, really? Can you just restart and start from a fresh, clean slate here, please?
I do have one thing I want to ask you about in relation to mics and to Macs. So we've had this problem since I started 10 years ago. If somebody has a Mac, they're hooked with their mic through a USB cable directly into the computer. XLR to USB, right?
Okay.
After an hour to an hour, 15 minutes, they get the garbled. Everything goes garbled. They have to unplug their mic and replug it. We've had that problem with Macs since I started.
Yeah, that's a little strange. So let's say
everybody that has a Mac that I deal with has that problem.
Yeah, well, that to me, that sounds like they do have a bunch of programs up and running, and there's a bunch going on. Because look, here's the thing. We all want to pretend like, oh yeah, a USB mic, just plug it in and it works good. Well, that's not the truth. The truth is that a computer is doing a lot of things in the background, and it's always best. And so with guests, it's hard though. It's hard to tell them this, but like to restart your computer and only open the programs you need and plug in your mic and don't mess around, like then it usually works really well. So that sounds like one of those problems where it just, over time, it does. The other time I've heard of that problem is when people have an audio interface. Like, let's say that maybe they have a Focusrite 2i2 interface where they have their XLR mic plugged into the Focusrite 2i2, and then the 2i2 is connected to the computer via USB. Sometimes those 2i2s can develop that little glitchy sound and a weirdness, and you just got to unplug it and plug it in, which of course ruins the whole, the flow of the show and all that. But
yeah, you have to stop. Yeah,
you got to stop. But
well.
It's hard.
So then we use a couple programs that nobody uses. Go to podcast. They ask what we use and they laugh at me because nobody's ever heard of them. We use Total Recorder. We always have for the last 10 years to do our recordings off of Skype because we're doing all our shows off of Skype. Our guests are all at the farm. There's no way in hell we're getting them to go to a computer, sit down, and do a squadcast. It ain't happening.
Right.
So they're on their cell phones usually. Some are riding horses. So we need to use Skype. Totally. And Total Recorder has been reliable for us for 10 years, and we just keep using it. And then we do editing with a program called Mixcraft. So that's what we do our editing with. It was simple to use. It was simple to train people to use. And sometimes I use Hindenburg, but most of the time we use Mixcraft.
Interesting. So, all right. So for the Total Recorder, you're recording the Skype conversations. Is Total Recorder recording it all on the same track, or does it record like the host on the left, the guest on the right, or any funny stuff like that?
It can. We have it record mono anyway because like especially for the live show, we're not wasting time fooling around editing. So we're just putting it out. But we can do that. You can do left and right. Now it'll be the host on the left and everybody on Skype on the right. It's going to be that way. Yeah.
Okay. So, so when you record with Total Recorder on Skype, so your Skype guest is being recorded, your voice is being recorded, but when you play music and stuff, that's also being recorded there?
Yeah, because of the system, the way I have it set up with the one computer that's doing the recording is picking up the main out of the mixer.
Got it.
So it's getting everything.
So your voice and the music are coming out of the mixer into that Total Recorder.
Which is nice because I can play sound files, I can do that kind of thing, and then the guests hear it. So that's nice. And especially if we're talking about like horse racing and things, if we're having a segment on that, I can play the race, everybody can react to it. So it really works out well that way. But again, we have 3 computers running through a mixer to make that happen.
Right.
So those are the programs that we use that people are not really familiar with.
Barry just raised his hand, and he passed me a note that says he thinks he knows what you eat for breakfast every morning on the farm there. Barry, just go ahead and say it then. What does Glenn eat for breakfast?
Beans, coffee, and biscuit, and a little piece of fat back.
Oh, the little piece of fatback? Okay.
You have been waiting forever to use that one.
So many clips I could use today. I love it.
And Alphonic, I can't say enough. This is not a commercial.
Right.
I'm not getting paid, but we run everything through Alphonic. Everything. Couldn't live without Alphonic because we produce 60 to 80 episodes a month. So we have to be efficient. We can't spend as much time with each sound file as we'd like to. So everything gets run off through Alphonic because it puts the tags on it. It puts, it sends it out to the places we need to get sent out to. We have it. I have copies of every sound file that was ever made sent to my Google Drive. So we have backup copies there, and it's all automatic. We needed to be efficient, and so everything we do it revolves around efficiency.
That's totally awesome. Yeah, and so in Alphonic, I'm sure you tag it, but you also probably level it to the right. All the level.
And we do every button that you can do on Alphonic, we have pressed.
Okay, yeah, the noise removal, the de-hum.
Yep, everything.
Right? That's good. Yeah,
because
Alphonic
it saves
is great.
a ton of time.
It really does.
And it really is good. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, no, Alphonic is great. I mean, especially for what you're using it for could be the perfect use case because it's every day. You don't have time to sit there and mix everything like me and some other maniacs in this world. Like we have clients where we record everything on a separate track and then I sit down and spend an hour or two literally mixing an episode. And yes, it comes out great, but that's a lot of time and money and your use case is completely different. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we need, it costs us money, but it's worth every penny.
Right. So no Macs.
No Macs. Nope. I had a Mac early on and I had both and I discovered I couldn't go from one to the other quickly and not lose my brain. So I just needed to have it all consistent. So we went PCs. So when you're streaming your show every morning, you're the host. And so what are you looking at on your screen? You have notes up or are you looking at callers? Well, I have 2 things on each of the 4 screens. So we have Skype and a recorder on one. I have my production notes, which is the outline for the show that we're doing. I use iTunes to play the sound. So I have iTunes set up Monday through Friday. I have folders for each Monday through Friday. And I have the sound for each day set up in there. And then I drop whatever extra sound I need in for that day. And then I have Call in Studio and Facebook open on another one because our live listeners contact me through Facebook if something's wrong immediately. And then on the other computer, I have Mixler and another recorder. So I have 4 screens with 8 total things open. Got it. And then we just, you just have to keep an eye on everything. And I stand up, so it makes it actually a little bit easier. I have a standing desk, so it makes it easier for me to quickly look around. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I might have to get a standing desk. I've been sitting a lot, but I just started this intermittent fasting thing, which is in 2 days, I already feel better. So it's pretty cool. Well, I have the up down one, the one that goes up and down, and I love it. Because, I don't stand all day, but every time I'm recording, I stand. I think it just makes me more alert. Right. I just thought of a weird, wacky question. Did you ever hook up a chariot to any of your horses? No, but I drive. I drive carriages. I've always wanted to drive a chariot, actually. That's right. That might be a good thing. Like you could get your picture taken with your horse. Wait, what's your favorite horse's name? I forget. Scooter. You and Scooter with a chariot with a Roman helmet. Scooter at Podfest. I chose Scooter at Podfest every year. Oh, that is so cool. All right, so I don't want to talk about sponsors, but you have a lot of, or maybe not a lot of sponsors, but you have sponsors for all your shows, right? Yeah, we don't do a show unless it's sponsored. I think she billed 32 last month. Wow. Yeah. So, and now are these are they all live reads or some of it pre-recorded audio? Both. With the live show, we found that doing all live reads got too hard because we'll have maybe 4 ads in an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And we also found through our surveying, we have about 400 people on Patreon and they're all in a private Facebook room. So like a super focus group. And we found that the pre-recorded ads break up the show a little bit. It adds some music. It breaks up the show. We also get a break to go to the bathroom and get a drink. We play a song by independent artists that are also horse people every day, and that's because we need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, that's so cool.
So with the live show, you think about those things. And then, so that's why we do it. So we break it up. So like we might do a live read for one of our sponsors this week, and next week we'll put a recorded ad in. Or we might have a guest that we know is going to weave into the conversation that they use those products, and that'll be counted as the ad. So we have a number of different ways we do it. Product reviews is another way. A lot of our companies will send out, we have our listeners do the reviews. So they'll send the products to the listeners, to our Patreons. That's one of the benefits. And then they come on the show and do a product reviews, but basically it's a big commercial, right?
Holy cow.
So
that's, oh man. I really could picture in another like 5 years or so, like, so do you ever think like a bigger, like a broadcasting company might try to like buy your whole?
I hope so. That I'm going to retire sometime.
Right? Ka-ching!
Do you know which one I think has a better chance of that happening is the Florida Podcast Network. Just because it's not as niche-y and it's a bigger platform, yet we kind of are focusing on local and travel, and there's just a ton more money in it than in the horse world. So I kind of think that one, like our travel show provided a whole new, we do a travel adventure show called Finding Florida, which means that we go to a location, the tourist bureaus help set this up, and they actually pay for everything. They help set up like 10 activities in 3 or 4 days. And we go do all those and we record sound on all of it. And then we pay, that's editing. That takes us about 8 to 10 hours to edit after, because we put music in it and we make it more of a travel adventure show. But, we had to record while we're in a race car doing 100 miles an hour on the track. We had to record while we're on a boat. We have to record while we're doing all of these things. So we had to find a simple way to do that. We do use a Tascam DR-05 with 2 mics. By the way, the Behringer mics, because we have broken mics doing the show, dropping them in water and everything else. So we use the Tascam to record interviews. So the interviews, we want to be really good. So for on location, we've just done the zip line and we want to talk to the instructor. So we'll get out the Tascam. But everything else, we tried portable recorders. We tried all kinds of stuff. You know what we ended up using? Our phones.
Interesting.
Our phones were the best, because when we're doing a thing like a boat or a zip line, we want the background noise. We want to hear the wind blowing. We want to have all of that stuff in the recording, so other microphones cut too much of it out.
Right.
So our phones, I use a program called Hi-Q on my Android, and Hi-Q is excellent. I love that program. It's been so reliable. I think it costs a couple dollars, but that's it. And I use it for everything. And the nice part about that program is it'll save it as an MP3 and it automatically puts it into Dropbox immediately. So as soon as it gets a connection, it puts them in the Dropbox, so I don't have to load it later. And we'll do maybe 20 recordings in 3 or 4 days, using that. And that everything takes time, and time is your enemy in what we do. So the fact that it loads it up there for me is wonderful. And the sound is great. So we use our phones for almost everything that's not an interview one-on-one.
That is cool. So it's you and Jemmy, right? On that show.
Yep.
Yeah. And so if you're both standing there talking or interviewing people, do you both have your phones out recording, or just one of you?
Well, if we're talking to people, we use the Tascam, the DR-05, which is a lot like the Zoom H4.
Right.
And then we have mics. We have 2 mics, and we'll use those mics.
Right.
And then as a backup, we always do backups every recording we do. We learned that the hard way. I use my phone for the backup. So, but when we're out and about, then we're holding on to our phones. Yes. Wrist strap, holding onto your phone and hoping you're not dropping it overboard or off the race car. And I did that at Daytona track the one day. We were at Daytona.
Really?
And my phone went out at about 30 miles an hour onto the racetrack, and I'm still using that phone today. It still works. So,
were you recording at the time?
Yes.
Did it record that?
Oh, yes. We put it in the show where it went.
Oh, that's classic. Oh, that is classic.
I broke 2 ribs that day too, by the way. So that was an expensive adventure.
Wait, you broke 2 ribs that day?
Yeah. Yes, I broke 2 ribs. We ended up in the Daytona hospital for about 4 or 5 hours.
Wait, so how did you break the ribs again? I remember.
It's a very embarrassing story.
Oh, it's all right. So Jemmy punched you. Let's go with that.
Let us just say, if you go back and listen to the Daytona episode of our show, you will hear the sound of me breaking ribs. She got that on tape. She got that on the recording too.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't hear this. What episode is that? Is that like a specific?
Just look for Daytona Beach. You'll
Okay.
find it in the Daytona Beach episode.
Of the Finding Florida show.
FloridaPodcast.com.
Yeah, findingfloridapodcast.com.
So there's not too many that do kind of show like that. You know me, I don't like to be second in things. I like to do things first. And there's not too many that do that kind of travel adventure show to the level we do it. One, it's very time consuming. It's a lot of work. But we've gotten the attention now of the travel people in Florida. So we get contacted saying, when are you coming to our town? We want to help you. And they'll book the hotels. They'll do everything. And because they want us to come to their town. And that show's picked up steam, and the number of listeners is way up. And it's interesting. We thought we'd have Florida listeners who wanted to learn about things to do in their neighborhood or in other parts of Florida. 70% is outside of Florida.
Wow. Well, plus Florida is like one of the best
It was perfect
vacation destinations. So everyone's interested in Florida.
Florida's made. I mean, this show was made for Florida.
Right.
You know, it really is. Well, though you could do it in other states, Colorado and Texas and California.
Right.
You know, there are other states you could do it in, but Florida's perfect.
Yeah, I'm in Colorado. Let's do one.
Finding Colorado.
It takes a lot of time. Oh, I know. Really.
It
And so let's. Okay, so you're going around. You're recording all this audio for Finding Florida, and then comes the job of putting it all together. So how do you even like conceptualize putting it all together? I mean, do you guys have an outline of
Yeah, we do. We have.
Okay.
We're very detailed that way. Jemmy's very detailed that way.
Okay.
I am not. She is. So we know what recordings we have. She initially goes through the hours. Like if we're taking a tour and it's 2 hours long, she'll go through and weed that down to 5 minutes. She'll actually go through that, weeds it down to 5 minutes, and then she sends me all of those final pieces, and then I put it together in the final episode. And we'll weave appropriate music in between the segments. We find old commercials that we can find on YouTube for the location we're going to, and we'll play those in between segments. We try and get as much sound from the locations if they've done commercials. So we're really trying to put this out as a full production. And that's the reason it takes like 8 to 10 hours to put it together.
Right. So you're weaving in music. So now what software are you using to put all this together?
I use Mixcraft and sometimes Hindenburg.
Mixcraft. So I'm gonna have to look that up. But so you can bring in a bunch of different tracks and move them around.
It's exactly like Hindenburg, only I think it's a little easier to use for raising levels and lowering levels and having tracks over tracks. I found it easier anyway, but other people may not say that. But I was one of those people you talked about at the beginning of your show in your opener. I have no idea what I'm doing. I had no idea 12 years ago what I was doing, and we still probably don't have any idea what we're doing. So.
Yeah, no, not true. But okay, so when you bring all the files into Mixcraft, how do you have to adjust the levels and match levels by ear? How do you
we
do
try
that?
and do that as much as possible, and then I just let Alphonic fix it. Fix the rest.
Got it.
I'll have 30 to 35 tracks on that show.
Wow.
So because it's tiny bits and pieces. It's 2 minutes here, 30 seconds, and then an interview is 4 minutes, and then we're on to something else at 30 seconds. So it's just a lot of pieces.
Right.
If you mess something up in the middle, and that's always interesting because you have to move everything, and you have to, it's interesting.
Yeah. You have to highlight everything to the right and move it all to the right. Now, do you also like add voiceovers for Finding Florida?
Sometimes if we get back, we try and be as good as we can when we're recording. We do record in the car between stops. So we'll say, okay, we just finished that, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and then say what's coming up next. We use the mics for that then with the Tascam. And then if we forget to do that, or sometimes when I can't make things come together, then I will do a voiceover.
Oh, okay. Like if there's if you just need to explain a transition.
Yes. And that's hard when we're out doing it. We're 3 days with 10 different stops over 3 days. And you're trying to remember what you've done and haven't done. It gets difficult. Yeah.
You needed an assistant.
Yeah. But I would not be doing this show without Jemmy. One, she's fantastic on the air. She's just a ball of energy. She makes me look like that I haven't had any coffee.
Wow.
And she's super organized. So with that kind of show, you need to be super organized.
Well, I remember I've seen you and her speak together. I think it was last Podfest or maybe the previous one, but I look forward to meeting her at this one, which, that was a month ago, and it was great to meet her.
Yes, and we did the opening talk. I always do the opening keynote at Podfest, and Jemmy and I did it together this year for the first time. So It was fun. You enjoyed it, I know.
Yeah. This is so weird. I don't know. This is the first time ever I've been 2 months ahead recording episodes. It's weird. Very weird.
I've never had that luxury.
I know, it's weird. Okay, so you put it together in Mixcraft, and then how do you like export it out of there, like as a WAV file or MP3?
I put it through as a very high MP3, like 198 or whatever, and then we upload it to Auphonic. So, and of course, everything's coming back down mono. I'm pet peeve. If your podcast is in stereo and I hear different things in each ear, I'm out. I can't listen to it. My mind does not let me listen to it.
Oh, what about just like intro, just music, regular music? You can handle that, obviously.
I can handle that, but for some reason, people talking one in each ear or whatever, I can't do it. I'm out.
Yeah, that's weird.
But you and I both listen to podcasts where they do that, and I can't do it.
Yeah, I remember hearing a Tim Ferriss one. I think it was his interview with Rick Rubin, and they were in like a sauna, and they were both like, apparently he said on the air they were both holding Zoom H6s and they were recording. And anyway, that one seems to be panned a little bit, like Rick Rubin's a little to the left and Tim Ferriss is a little to the right. It's not so bad. I can handle that. Plus, I mean, I really wanted to hear his interview with Rick Rubin.
Right.
So, but yeah, audio pet peeves are there, and it's good to produce your audio so people can, just listen and hear it, and that's it. And so I wanted to ask you though, you take it out of Mixcraft as an MP3 and then upload it to Auphonic. One thing you could do, and it might just improve the quality with really probably not much extra time in production, when you export it out of Mixcraft, export it as a WAV file. Now it'll be a much bigger file.
Well, that's the thing. It took too long to Auphonic it then.
Oh, it took too long to upload to Auphonic.
Upload it, yeah.
Okay.
That's the problem we had. It was just taking too long.
Yeah, the upload time, that's it. Okay.
And I tried it and listened to it both ways, and I went, I can't really tell the difference. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's fine, yeah.
Again, time is money.
Exactly. And the good thing is, like you're taking precautions and you're taking measures along the way to make sure at every step your audio is good quality. So then when it gets to the end, it's good, and you can upload an MP3 to Auphonic, and it's fine, totally fine.
And with what we're doing, because all our interviews are on people's cell phones, we sound fantastic compared to the guests anyway.
Oh, right.
So,
hey, speaking of cell phones, when you and Jemmy are doing Finding Florida and roaming around Florida, by the way, have you ever gone surprise visit to Chris Kremitzos' house?
No, but we have been in Tampa, and he was not home, of course. We were going to do that, but he was not home.
Yeah, get that on video if you do it. Just knock on his door, like out of the blue.
We plan to.
That'd be great. And then like, ask if you could stay over for the night. Like, is it okay if we crash here?
No, he has 2 kids now. I'm not staying. He'd have me changing diapers.
All right, so you and Jemmy are holding your phones at some of these points. When you're speaking and you're holding your phone, how close is the phone to your mouth?
Some cases, 1.5 feet, 2 feet. We have it between us and a guest.
Oh, okay.
Now, most of the time, though, when we're doing that, the phone might be a foot away, and it all depends whether there's wind. We have to take that into consideration too, because that'll pick it up on those phone mics.
Right.
But then sometimes we want the wind. If we're on a boat going 40 miles an hour, you want to hear a little wind, right? So, but usually it's us. We love catching, if there's an episode is not complete unless Jemmy is screaming at some point in delight or terror. So, if we catch that, that's radio gold for us. The listeners love to hear her scream.
Right.
So every episode, it's a goal to do something to make her scream. So
nice. Did you ever pull any pranks like a rubber snake or something?
We don't need to do that. Just sit her in the back. Just sit her in the back seat of a hot rod convertible and go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in about 5 seconds. That does it.
All right, cool. When you're talking about having your phones and recording everything on location, I remember what I did. So I had this old little. It's almost like the Tascam DR-05 that you're talking about, but it was an older, smaller brand. and I got this little windscreen to put on the top of it to block to like this little furry windscreen to put on top of the recorder. So it had a little left and right mics on the top, and it covered the whole thing. And that way, if there was any wind, you wouldn't hear the wind noise. And also, if you were using it like to talk into, you could talk into it. And even if you had any like little plosives, oops, I just hit my mic. If you had any plosives, it would sort of like that air would, the furry windscreen would sort of block the plosive.
I wonder if you could just put a regular mic thing over the end of the phone.
That's essential. So that's what I did. That's what I'm saying. So I had a handheld recorder with a furry windscreen that went on it. Then I just took the little furry windscreen off and I slipped it on the bottom of my phone.
So as long as you know where the mic is on your phone, I'm gonna have to try that. I never thought about trying that.
Yeah,
And it'd be easy enough to take on and off in between times.
And I don't, like you said, if you're on a boat going 40 miles an hour, you want all the wind and the distortion of the mic and all. But if you're in the car, in the car you're using your mics. But if you're anywhere else and it's just you doing like a voiceover kind of thing, then putting a little windscreen or like the foam over it will. And especially if you're holding the phone closer to your mouth, it should block the plosives and make it just nicer. So
that's an interesting. I'm going to try that. Thanks, Chris.
There you go. Finding Florida. Finding a windscreen.
Now I learned something today.
All right. So what haven't we talked about, Glenn? By the way, I love your pacing. Me and you pace right along with each other. Fast paced. I love it.
Time is money.
Time is money. Got to feed the horses.
You know, it's funny because I do get picked on sometimes because we run this as a business. It's a business. Right. And, I realize, and, sometimes I do wish we had the luxury of Finding Florida started that way for us. It was something I wanted to do. I needed to get out of the house because we work 100 hours a week and we were never getting out. I need to just do something fun in podcasting. And not that the shows aren't fun, but 70 to 80% of what I do every day is business. It's contacting sponsors, it's selling, it's doing all of the administrative stuff. It's not talking on the air. I always say I would have the perfect job if I had to do a show on the mic.
Right.
But we're not at the point where we make enough money that can happen. Right. So, a lot of what I do is business. And so, yes, I talk like a business person because podcasting is a business for us. And everything we do, we have to look at it as a business. But yet I admire those people who are doing it for fun and can just have fun and not have to worry about the business side.
Right.
So I do, there are times I wish I was that person.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you started back in 2008, did you just start, you probably just started one show. You didn't start a whole network.
No, we had 12 listeners after 6 months. Because nobody knew how to listen back then.
Right.
Especially horse people didn't know how to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
So you started one show, and now back then, obviously it wasn't a business really. So were you working or
Yeah, I had another job, and I did about the third year in is when I went full time. So we started getting sponsors 6 months in. By the way, that sponsor that we got, we sold her on a dream because we had nothing to sell her on. And she's still with us today. She is our biggest sponsor, sponsors 3 shows, and has for the entire 11 years we've been in business.
Wow.
And, I asked her why the other day. I said, why? And she said, it works. I get calls. I get people that come to me and say, I heard it on the radio. Everybody says they heard it on the radio.
Right.
I heard it on the radio, and that's why she sticks with us. This year, she increased from 2 to 3 shows. And she's title sponsor, which means she's paying the maximum amount. She's our title sponsor on those shows.
Right.
So, and she has been with us every week for those 11 years. So we have a retention rate of over 70%. I know this is not your deal. This is not what we're supposed to talk about here, but we have a retention rate of over 70% of our sponsors are with us for 4 to 5 years or longer. So, awesome. And that's because it works.
Yeah. That's because it's the real deal and it works. And so one thing I forgot to ask you about, I just remembered, was the other shows on your network. So there's other hosts doing stuff elsewhere, right? Explain how all that works.
Okay, so our hosts, we do it a little differently again. We do it more like a production house in that every episode that's recorded, even if the hosts are, if we're not one of the hosts, if we have other hosts that are recording, we do it all over Skype. And we have a producer that sits in on every episode that's recorded with the hosts. So the hosts don't have to worry about anything but showing up with content and guests. And then we worry about, okay, now you're going to do your opener. The producer is actually producing. Now you're going to do your opener. There's a commercial here. We're going to put this commercial in. Now you're going to do this. Now you're going to do that. And then the producer takes those sound files. We throw them all in Dropbox. We have a production notes page for every show we've done since day one. And we do that in Google Sites. We have a Google site, private Google site for every show, and then there's a page for every episode of every show. So in Google Sites, I can go into Google Sites and I can search all the sites for a guest name, and it'll show me every episode that they've been on through all 10 years.
Wow.
So Google Sites is something that we use. Every host is tied into that Google site for their show that they're a part of. And then we take those sound files and they're sent off to the editor. We edit some. Neil Galarte, Wild Style Media, edits our other shows, and he is a blessing because we send him a pile of crap sometimes. He comes out with good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we have a turnaround. He has to get them done in 48 hours. I mean, from the time I get them to him, that show has to be back to us and out in 48 hours.
Wow.
So, we're pushing him all the time to get episodes out.
Right.
People don't think about when you produce 60 to 80 episodes a month, you really have to focus on that. Everything is the same for every show. We do it the same way, system-wise, for every show.
Right. And so all the other hosts of these shows on your network, they're just at their home, right?
Yep.
Okay. And the guest, obviously, is where the guest is. Now, are you streaming these live as well?
No. Horses in the Morning is the only one we do live.
Okay. Yeah. So then you record it. But I'm sure you do it. They do the show as if it's live, just to do it with nice continuity.
No, actually, we start and stop. We okay. It takes 2 hours to record an hour show. It takes double the time because you're talking to the guests and you're just goofing around off air, and all of that just takes time.
Yeah, and even sound checking the guests can take 30 minutes if they have
the host in our case, because they have crappy internet on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. So that makes sense. That is totally cool. So have you ever recorded any of your horses?
Oh yeah, we play them all the time on the show.
Oh, really?
Yes. I can play for you. You want to hear?
I don't know if I'll be able to hear, but try it. Yeah.
Oh, you'll be able to hear it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think you should be able to. I'm pulling it up now.
I'm hearing myself feedback a little. I don't know if it's just your headphones are a little loud, but don't change anything though. Don't change anything. All right, let's see.
I say this and there it is. Okay, so we have, here we go. We have something we've done in a daily in the morning show since we started, and it's called a Daily Winnie.
Oh, cool.
It's a shout out that we do every day, usually to our listeners for something they've done, but this is a Daily Winnie. Let's see if you can hear it.
Yes! Oh, that was so cool.
All right, now we have another one that we do.
Yeah.
Barry, you're going to love this one too. This is a baby horse.
Oh, man. I always love those pictures of you see, if you go to the mall and you see the store that has all the calendars, there's always a mama horse and a little baby horse standing next to each other. That's just a wonderful sight. Have you ever, because my brother in New Jersey has horses. He has 8 or 10 horses.
Oh, really?
I don't know if he listens to your show. I think I told him about it before. But
he should.
I know. He should call in.
What's wrong with him?
Call in and promote me. Anyway, how many horses do you have total?
My wife and I just have 2 now. We've had up to 30 at a time, but we have 2 and we're very happy with 2. She rides. I drive carriages. So I have a Scooter, my driving pony, who's very famous.
Yes.
And he's probably the most famous pony in the world. Literally the most famous pony in the world. Because we did a video of him rolling in the water. You probably saw that at Podfest. I showed it one time. And it now has over 12 million views. So he is the most famous pony in the world.
That's awesome.
But Scooter makes regular appearances on the show too. If I record him doing fun stuff, he'll make regular appearances.
That's cool. So you had up to 30 horses. All right. So now you have 2, and because taking care of horses is no joke, right? Every morning you gotta every day you gotta do a bunch of stuff, right?
And it's expensive. You know,
And
it's the
expensive.
other thing. You know, they all need care. They all need their feet done. I mean, when we get their feet done, we get the farrier out and get them trimmed and their shoes put on every 6 weeks, and it's $300 every 6 weeks.
Oh. All right.
We don't spend that much on our shoes.
Got to get more sponsors for shoes.
Yeah, that's right.
Papa
I
needs
wish
it.
I could get a shoe sponsor. That'd be great.
There you go. Get a shoe sponsor. Get Chris Kremitzos as a sponsor. Come on. That guy's got to spend some money already. Come on. All right. So, all right. Anything else we haven't talked about?
My co-host in the morning, Jamie, her one horse is extremely annoying, and he has something to say.
Wow, he was like whinnying and laughing at the same time.
At the same time. That's Chili. His name is Chili. That's Chili's Winnie.
Wow.
By the way, when we play those, I have a funny story for you. And it just happened again the other day. I saw a post. When we play those, a lot of these people are in their barns and they're playing it over speakers.
Oh.
When we play those whinnies, the horses all start whinnying in the barn. They're looking around. Yeah. Apparently, we set horses off everywhere. So
that is so cool. All right. So if people want to listen to Horses in the Morning, what time is it on, and what what web page should they go to listen?
Just go to horseinthemorning.com. Of course, you can listen recorded as a podcast or listen live at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then if you want to have some fun traveling around Florida, go to Finding Florida Podcast or the Florida Podcast Network, and you can join Jimmy and I there.
Cool. Yeah, and those links will be in the show notes. Now, when you aren't there or you go on vacation, what happens?
We have to get all the shows done ahead of time. So we have to pre-record. We don't miss. So we have to get them done ahead of time. Now, what we will do, like with Horses in the Morning, is we'll say, okay, next week there's no live show, but we'll put the podcasts out every day as usual. There won't be a live show. So we will do that when we're on vacation. But going on vacation for us is a pain in the ass because we have to get all those episodes done for all the different shows. Everything has to be done. And so we'll start, usually if we're going away for a week to 10 days, we'll start 2 months ahead,
right,
getting the shows done for those week to 10 days.
Wow. It's just great. I mean, I'm so glad you're doing this, Glenn. I'm so glad that you're having success with it. And I think you're more toward the beginning than your peak for sure. I mean, I don't know why. I just feel like even most podcasts and people in the podcast industry, like right now, it seems like we're trying real hard and we're putting in a lot of effort to build something, and podcasting is like slowly growing. But I don't know. I just think that at some point in the future, it's going to grow significantly more. And those of us who have been really putting in the effort over the years are going to rise up considerably with that. I mean, maybe that's just
I hope to retire someday, so I hope you are correct.
That's right. I mean, I don't know. Some big media company needs to buy you out. Amazon.
I agree.
Come on.
For a cool $2 million, they can have it.
That's right. Couple mil, then you could just stream every day. All right. Glenn the Geek from Horse Radio Network, host of Horses in the Morning. Glenn, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
And it was good seeing you at Podfest.
Yeah, it was great seeing you in 2 weeks. And by the way, Glenn, at the end of the show, we both have to yell "sound great."
Okay.
I'll let you know when we have to yell. Hopefully, there's no one in the house you're going to scare.
Okay.
And hopefully, you can yell right in the mic. That's always the best.
All
right, here we go. Let's go. Sound great!
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Walk away from me where you can't play that part so well. Why do you play it out on me now? You like to lose control where it's quite a feeling, isn't it? They're floating, drifting down now. You tell me that you found something better. Does it mean it's still the same? You're pushing me away. You walk your theories now where you're getting worked up on your now. You walk your way around somehow now. Yes, it hurts me now where that you don't talk to me now. Now that these worlds have split apart now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah, I say now.